I'm on the Verizon side right now.
Ready? 3, 2, 1. It's 4 games left in the season to see what's in the cupboard for next year, starting with a home date against the St. Louis Rams. Welcome into Game Time Live, presented by Verizon. I'm your host, Lou Holder. 4 more games on the schedule for the Washington Redskins. After the St. Louis Rams, the rest of the schedule against the NFC East, so it should be interesting to see how much heart this Washington Redskins team had. But first up, the St. Louis Rams. Everybody knows a couple years ago, the Robert Griffin III trade and how many picks we had to give to the St. Louis Rams for Robert Griffin III. And it's interesting that this is the matchup this week, and we bring in our man from Redskins.com, Andrew Walker, to get us started. And Andrew, first of all, you know what we do with you. We talk about the program, and I think it's fitting that we have Trent Williams on there. He's been, actually, since the drug suspension a couple years ago, he has turned his career around, and he has become one of the premier offensive linemen in the league.
Right. Well, obviously, when you pick him so high, you feel that he has that potential. But he's really, you're right, he's really morphed into that. He's one of the preeminent left tackles in the league. And also kind of the point of this story today is, and also it's our tackle diabetes game, and he's a big spokesperson for that. But not only that, he plays hurt all the time. And he's one of those guys that you really lean on, obviously as that left tackle. But, he had a sprained right MCL and ankle that he suffered 3 weeks ago. He had to sit out a game. He's like, that's it, I'm not sitting out any more games. If I can walk, I'm playing. So the last 2 weeks, including today, he might have a little bit of pain, but he's playing because that's the kind of pride that he has in little leadership. He doesn't care what the record is. A lot of the veterans in the locker room, all of them, have said, I don't care what the record is, we're going to play this out, and we're going to keep playing hard.
So there was 2 individuals that had that drug situation. Fred Davis was one, Trent Williams was the other. 2 totally different directions as far as learning that, you know what, this is my craft, this is my job, this is my livelihood. And you can see the difference between him and obviously what happened with Fred Davis.
Right. Well, some people get it and some people don't. Sometimes it clicks with some people and sometimes it doesn't. I think Trent realized I have a lot at stake here. I'm not going to mess around with this anymore. I'm gonna be a professional and I'm going to do my job. So that's what Trent Williams did. And obviously everyone knows what happened with Fred, and he's a great talent, and hey, maybe he'll catch on some other place maybe, but I think we're just glad that we have a guy like Trent Williams protecting our quarterback's backside.
Absolutely. Let's step out of the way so we can see the field. We see Robert Griffin III warming up. Obviously, what an interesting year it's been for that young man. First couple games when everybody was yelling and screaming, Robert, Robert, Robert. Now, it's not just him. It's the entire, sense of the team. It's just not for fanfare anymore. It's a manhood issue. It's to see who's going to be on this team next year. We don't know if Robert's going to be on the team. We don't know a lot of things. There's a lot of things that we just don't know about, starting with the quarterback position.
Right. Well, Coach Gruden said this week, obviously Robert wasn't happy when he was placed on the bench, when he was starting and then placed on the bench in favor of Colt McCoy. But, Coach Gruden's been, harping this week. Robert's bought in. He's taken the scout team snaps. He's doing his job. He's being a professional, and all the other quarterbacks are saying he's just fine. He's not being a diva like everyone seems to think. He's, in all interactions I've had with him, he's been perfectly fine. And I don't know where all this national attention's coming from, but Robert's been just fine with what's going on. He's practicing, doing his job, and that's what you need.
Okay, if we can go into the end zone, Alex, if we go to the end zone and look at Ryan Kerrigan. Ryan Kerrigan, man, his stuff went viral this week when seen with tennis star Carolyn Wozniacki at a restaurant. I mean, that's a little interesting twist for you this week.
They are just friends. I have the inside scoop. They are just friends, and she just happened to be in town, and that was the first time they've ever seen each other in person. They've been friends for a few weeks, and she's like, hey, I'll be in town. He's like, hey, I got this event. You want to come with? And that's what happened. So at this point, they're just friends. But, yeah, I mean, I can imagine. I can see the intrigue, and that would be things progress. That'd be pretty interesting. She was with Roy McIlroy, obviously, and that was well documented. Yeah. But that could be an athletic family if things panned out.
Right.
So
here's my theory that I mentioned, just tongue in cheek. Here's what I mentioned. Yeah. So how Carolyn Wozniacki. and Rory McIlroy broke up, right? And when they broke up, Rory went on an amazing run, right? So my theory was, if Wozniacki and Kerrigan started dating, and Kerrigan broke out with Wozniacki, then everything in the Redskins would just be going. You notice
individually he's going into a contract year, so you never wish for things like that. But tongue in cheek, hey, maybe we'll have a 20-sack season next year. So,
well, what about his play on the field? I mean, him and that entire defense, not just him, but the entire defense's play on the field. Give him a grade if you could. Give him a grade with 4 games left to play. Give him a grade.
Well, I personally don't like giving actual
grades.
Well,
don't give out actual grades. Yeah. Give me your feeling, your thoughts.
The Colts game, obviously, everyone's seen all the big plays against them. There's some said communication errors, just people not knowing what to do. But, for the most part, if you look at the numbers, let's just look at the numbers. We've played, so many games to this point in the season. You can look at the numbers. They've actually done a pretty good job. Quarterbacks have a pretty high rating against them, but when you look at yardage, they're not giving up a whole lot of yards, So, as a whole, obviously, there's a lot of problems when you have the record that you have right now. So, that's something they're looking to fix. But I don't think it's been as brutal as everyone seems to think it has been. The Colts game, a few brutal plays, obviously.
Right. Watching Game Time Live presented by Verizon, the Washington Redskins and the St. Louis Rams. Look down here on the side of the field. We see D'Angelo Hall. D'Angelo Hall coming in with his little scooter. That defense sure missed him this year.
Yeah, you look at Andrew Luck last week, he's not going to miss wide open guys, and the one he did miss was a drop pass wide open by Colby Fleener. So as Chris Russell walks into our shot.
Chris Russell's everywhere. Don't go far, friend. Don't go far, friend. Don't go far.
But
getting a hug from D'Angelo Hall. Should I walk up and hug him? I don't think so.
But also we have inactives today real quick. Kirk Cousins, Deshaun Jackson can't make it because of those contusions in his shin. Brandon Merriweather obviously knows he was doubtful to begin with. Keenan Robinson, a knee injury. Kedrick Golston has a back and foot injury. Josh Laribas is inactive, and Tyler Columbus.
All right, thank you so much, Andrew Walker from Redskins.com. As Andrew leaves, as we saw Chris Russell into the shot, Chris is here. Chris, this is a manhood issue now. 4 games left, 3 of them in the division, 2 of them at home after today. So there's still a lot to see who's going to be in the cupboard next year for the Washington Redskins. We do this a lot, 4 or 5 games in, unfortunately, that we are looking towards next year. But that's where we are now. You got a first-year head coach who wants to see who's with him, who knows who's going to be out here next year. But it starts with these 4 games to find out what you got.
Yeah, I think this is a very, as weird as it is to say, very important 4 games for a 3-9 football team, Lou. I mean, what other way can you say it? I believe not only is every player and every coach, and that includes the head coach, every person of this organization, every scout, every executive, essentially, outside of Dan Snyder and I believe even Bruce Allen, are coaching or playing or fighting for their jobs. So there's nobody that should think they're secure by any means.
Yeah. And you look at just the overall psyche of this team. It's the coaching staff too.
Oh, no doubt. I mean, the coaching staff, especially with the Washington Post report, last night or yesterday afternoon that Jay could be in trouble and quote unquote one and done if things continue to go sour and if things don't improve. There is problems that you can't possibly fathom to deal with and sort out over the next 4 weeks. And again, it feels like this is pretty much the same way every December with the exception of one that I've been around. And even in that one, you couldn't enjoy it, quite honestly, because of all the controversy, because of all the intrigue, and then the fallout in 2012.
Chris, I mean, I know you probably can't answer this to the full extent because we're just reporters and we just report on what we see, but we go through this every single year. What does this team need? Is it front office personnel? Is it, what is it that can turn? Because every year we see in the NFL a team go from worst to first. Right. It's doable. It can happen. And the talent that was on this roster the very first week of the season, you would say on paper, we do this every year, but you would say on paper, it was the best that we've seen in 4 or 5 years with the offense, the defense. But you know what? The offensive line, everything has to go just right. Doc Walker just stopping by just right.
Well, maybe they should hire
Doc. Doc's unavailable. Doc is unavailable. He loves the media too much. Doc is unavailable. So what else needs to happen?
Well, I mean, we can start at the very, very, very top and say what they need is they need a strong voice that understands, knows, and has done NFL personnel for a very long time. A Charlie Casserly type, and I'm not saying him specifically, Eric DeCosta up the road in Baltimore. Somebody that has done it the right way, somebody who has extensive experience, and somebody who is at Redskins Park 365 days a year, except for, obviously when we travel to road games and so on and so forth. The one person that's already in the organization that can do that isn't at Redskins Park year-round, that they need to find a way to make sure that they get him there if they don't want to go outside, is A.J. Smith. Former Charger general manager, learned under Bill Polian and John Butler in Buffalo. That is the only answer in-house that I can come up with unless they want to go outside the house. And then what they really need to do, and I've said this over and over again, they need to spend time with the New England Patriots, who have dealt with all sorts of crisis, from a double murderer, who they just gave a contract extension to, and a scandal of epic proportions, Spygate, and see how they handle scandal and how they deal with things in-house. And the number one conclusion that I can come up with outside of the quarterback is they don't talk to the media. They shut up. Everyone is one voice. There is never any backstabbing. And this organization, as long as I've been around, is full of a bunch of backstabbers, quite honestly.
I'd have to agree with that assessment. I mean, there has been some differences in opinions, and it's gotten out in the media, and this year is no different. But to be quite honest and to be frank with you, Chris, an Eric DeCosta or all the names that you mentioned, it's not going to help Logan Paulson hold on to the football. I know it comes from the top, but there's just like a sense of just everything that can go wrong goes wrong with this team. Fumbles and interceptions, and it just some things just don't have. It just doesn't make sense.
No doubt about it. I mean, look, and this is why I rarely blame coaches for an abundance of the problems, and I break it down to 90% players, 10% coaches, because ultimately what happens in between these white lines, Lou, is only controllable by the players. And you mentioned Logan Paul. Here's a guy who's undrafted, who's at Redskins Park by 6:30 every morning, who's there until 6 o'clock every night, who works his butt off to try and do everything he can to make up for his lack of natural talent. And that's not being mean, that's just being honest. But there are many guys that are not like that. So I can live with Logan Paulson making a mistake. What I can't live with is a player, and I won't name any specific names on the negative side, but I think people know who they are, waltzing in at 7:55 and leaving at 3:10 or 3:30 or 3:45. That's not good enough. No matter if you're working at home with your playbook or not, you cannot focus and concentrate in a relaxed environment in your own home, if that's even what you're doing, and I would question that, more than what you can get done at Redskins Park in a serious environment, in a workplace environment where there's structure. That's what these players need to get better at.
Chris, you do a great job. We got 4 games left. You do a great job. Keep up the good work.
Thanks, pal.
All right.
Appreciate you as always.
That's Chris Russell from ESPN 980. We have Andrew Walker from Redskins.com. The fact is this, Washington Redskins fans, we got 4 games left. We've seen all the analysis. Some things are going to change come next year, as far as maybe the coaches, as far as a lot of these players. But right now, we have 4 games left to see the Burgundy and Gold in action against the St. Louis Rams, on the road against the New York Giants, at home for a Saturday tilt against the Philadelphia Eagles, and then ending up the year after Christmas with the Dallas Cowboys. So 3 games in the division, 2 of them at home. Should be a very interesting to see how much heart this Washington Redskins team really has. But it starts with the St. Louis Rams today. Enjoy the game. You've been watching Game Time Live, presented by Verizon.